So you might have seen the trailer, but now I had a chance to check out the entire film. And wow, I cannot believe that we're here. But one way or another, we got to get through this review of the new film, The Mean One. What's up, folks, and welcome back to the channel today for another review. And today we're going to be reviewing the new film, The Mean One, which is coming to theaters December 9th. And wow, first of all, just major props to the filmmaker Stephen Lamorte to getting this done. I mean, wow. That's all I gotta say. It's just wow. And yes, this is a very independent film, so you know, lower budget, and I'll talk a lot about the production in a moment. And it's a completely unauthorized parody of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. So yeah, folks, if you had not seen that trailer of the Grinch out here killing folks, well, yeah, that really happened. It really happened. And honestly, it's kind of funny and very well timed, because we just had the trailer of that Winnie the Pooh horror film, which is going to be released sometime next year. We just had the release of Violent Night, which is basically Santa Claus out here, you know, wreaking havoc. And now this comes out in December, perfect time for the holidays, coming just off of the success of Violent Night. And you throw this independent film out there and you're going to let it, you know, do what it do. And it's definitely going to have a lot of people intrigued, because everyone knows the story about How the Grinch Stole Christmas and the Grinch. And then the fact that we got this sort of a parody and very independent film that certainly should have people's attention, should do very well, to be honest, especially going right to theaters. And wow, again, Steven, just, you know, major props to getting this done, because this and having this idea is completely unhinged, but I'm all for it. I was super excited to check out this film, and it did not let down. One, because, you know, when you're checking out an independent film, you do have a certain level of expectation. You know, there's not a lot of money, so, you know, there may be flaws within a production, or there could be anything. You know, you may not have big names attached to it. There could be all sorts of different things in post or just in filming itself. And for me, the biggest thing that jumped out to me was the fact that they use CGI blood, because blood actually is one of the most expensive components in filming. You talk to any other filmmaker that's done a horror film, they say, yeah, we clearly went over our budget because of the amount of blood that we had to use for it. So, you know, in terms of the brutality of this film, it was there, but all implied CGI blood, which I, you know, obviously in a different light, if there was a lot more money here, this would have been probably one of the most brutal films ever, because any given chance that the Grinch was able to wreak havoc on somebody, he did. You know, the Grinch was not all about the Christmassy stuff. So if you out here celebrating the Christmassy stuff in Newville, which is basically a new revitalized version of Whoville, he was coming after you. And because of one night, when young Cindy Who, you know, was visited by the Grinch, much like the story that you know. But instead, there's a little bit of a twist here, because Cindy mom was like, oh, who's this big green thing in my house? And she goes to protect her daughter, but she loses the fight, and the Grinch ends up killing her mother. And now this sends Cindy down a new path of a path of trauma, and a lot of other different things, because she was completely gaslighted her entire life. No one believed her story, but nonetheless, Newville just completely shut down anything that resembled Christmas, because while Cindy incident happened, and obviously Cindy grew up, she came back to revisit with her dad, you know, there was still a vast amount of missing person cases in this town, yet the police wasn't doing anything about it. You know, Newville was a tourist destination for people to come hike this mountain, and if you obviously know the mountain of the Grinch, it's the same styling and look and design. Yeah, that is intriguing. So like, a lot of visitors would come, but a lot of people weren't coming back. And honestly, this kind of really works, because a lot of people do go missing people cases are higher in popular hiking locations. Like if you know, if you've ever been to Hawaii, you want to know what's the biggest number of causes of deaths, and it's missing persons. You know, people die, go missing or hurt while hiking. So like this build works here. But yeah, you know, again, it's a parody here, and while Cindy sort of becomes this missing girl, this does evolve into which was once the hunted now becomes the hunter. And this little turn in this film, especially in the third act of this film, really takes this film into another direction. But there's all sorts of different little things that this film does that I did enjoy. You know, so on one end, obviously I was disappointed because of the CGI blood and implied gore and brutality. But at the same time, the costume design of the Mean One, because they never actually refer to him as the Grinch because you don't want to get in trouble, or I don't even know what the politics behind that may be. But yeah, you know, the design was dope. And using some classic horror tropes. I thought the sound mixing was really well done. And I thought that the film added enough comedy to balance things, but not over the top. While being a parody could be completely silly, but I think that, like, while it did have moments of it showing like signs of being campy, there was a good balance of the horror and the comedy. So I thought it did a really good job in pacing and toning on that note. And then when it came down to performances, I mean, first of all, we absolutely got to talk about David Howard Thornton, who plays the Mean One, which if you just not have seen his recent film, Terrifier 2, completely killed it in that. That's one of my favorite movies this year, so definitely check that out. But stepping into this role, I had high expectations, and he completely executed. And I think that even with there being a live action version of How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and obviously tons of animation to kind of reference, I think he still was able to make this character his own. Sure, he got the mannerisms right and all the little creepy movements and all that other good stuff, but there still were times, especially in the facial expressions and all that other sorts of stuff, that he really did get it in. And then when you talk about some of the horror tropes and whatnot, you know, creeping up behind folks and all sorts of different things, like he really did do it. I definitely was looking forward to David Howard Thornton performance in this, and he delivered. But there was other few folks that kind of really jumped out at me that I was not expecting. One being John Bingham, who plays Doc Zeus, which if you say that really fast, you're certainly going to say Dr. Seuss. And it's funny because this character is essentially seeking revenge against the Mean One, which theoretically, when you think about a parody, you're like, oh, this is Dr. Seuss going after this creation of a character that's not his. And so how that kind of intertwines is hilarious, but nonetheless, this character, Doc Zeus, instantly becomes a favorite because of his the script that he's given, so his dialogue, all sorts of different things. He's definitely a treat, an added treat that I wasn't expecting in this. And then finally, Krystle Martin, who plays grown Cindy. I think that when we see the transformation of her again go from being the hunted to the hunter, she totally becomes badass and she kicks it into gear, and I really just enjoy what she brings to the third act of this film. So yeah, you know, again, for independent film with names you may not be familiar with, obviously folks should know David Howard Thornton. I think that this cast brought it to life. They really made this film work, and it was enjoyable, and I really had a good time with it. Yeah, and I thought that, you know, the first introduction of our slasher in The Mean One was especially to the ones that were deserving. I thought it was like, okay, I'm enjoying this. I like the design. I like how it's being executed. But again, you know, everything could have just been heightened if it had been practical effects here. But what can you do? It's an independent film, as they self-proclaim an ultra independent film. But it still worked. It still worked. There's a lot of jump scares. The sound is good. There's also some other little conflicts in terms of the plot, like because the cops really did not do anything to prevent all these things from happening. So Cindy is really taking things into her own hand, because every single time she tried to go the proper way of reporting the gaslighter, and no one in this whole town believes her. But eventually, again, this is where we see the turn from the hunted being the hunter, because again, the Mean One is not allowing anything Christmassy. He's also baiting people into Christmassy stuff too. There's actually a scene where I thought was completely hilarious because a person that did not really seem to be partaking in Christmas stuff actually got baited into some Christmas stuff. And I will also say too that the grunting and stuff from TheMeanOne was definitely chilling. So I definitely was enjoying that as well too. But the film is wicked. It's fun. I cannot believe that it got done, but here we are. And now I need this universe now of the Grinch, and then throw in Santa Claus, and then heck, let's throw in Winnie the Pooh. I heard Bambi's coming down the line. Let's just keep doing it. When these IPs become released and to free domain, let's keep doing it. I heard Mickey Mouse is loading up, so let's do it. I'm all for this. And again, when it comes down to getting this done, Steven is getting major props from me for making this happen. This was an unexpected fun movie right in time for the holidays. So folks, check out TheMeanOne in theaters December 9th. It's going to theaters, folks. An independent film going to theaters. Way to go. Way to go. But yeah, check it out, folks. Jump in the comments. Let me know your thoughts about it. And as always, stay tuned for more reviews very soon.